Everybody, I'm back. So I did promise that I was going to do a video having to do with the cards and this Pluto transit into Aquarius, and I still am, but I'm just not going to be doing it today because last week when I posted that video about Pluto moving into Aquarius, I did make a mention at a couple of points, primarily in the Libra rising section of the video, how important it is to understand when we're talking about this great conjunction that's going to be coming up in April, to understand where our Black Moon Lilith is. And, I'm all about to be forewarned is to be forearmed, right? So, and the reason I said that for Taurus, for Libra energies, because that great conjunction is going to be happening in their eighth house of sharing, of intimacy, of divorce, of life, of death. It's cyclical. It's where Pluto is the natural ruler of the eighth house. It is where Scorpio lives. So I made a mention. I said you should know where your Black Moon Lilith is to make sure that this Uranus Jupiter conjunction, if it's aspecting your Black Moon Lilith in the eighth house, let me know. And I got so many responses, and then it kind of just segued into a lot of general questions about Black Moon Lilith. So I'm going to unpack her. And so we're going to discuss her in each sign and or house. And if you're not sure, I did put a glyph at on the thumbnail of the video so that you have a really good visual of what it is that you would be looking for in your birth chart. As far as Black Moon Lilith goes, she is a Black Moon with a little cross right underneath her, okay? And again, if you don't know your placements, generally speaking, Black Moon Lilith will come up under most general readings on free birth chart calculators. Again, make sure that you're going Western Whole House and it's sidereal. You're going to get different placements for that. There are so many different modalities of astrology, guys. I don't want to make it about that, but you want to make sure that you're dealing with a whole house. And only some of these free birth chart calculators deal with asteroids. So I'm going to look it up and I'll pin it in the comments, right? When I find a couple of sites that do that. But understanding where your Black Moon Lilith is really, really important because, and I mentioned this a lot on my channel, she's where we have a blind spot. Long story short, we could talk, and I am going to explain the mythology behind her and all of that interesting stuff. But at the end of the day, what does she mean for us? She's our blind spot. She is in the deepest, she's first of all in the farthest part of the moon. So and the moon is our emotion. So we have a very hard time accessing her, which means we have a hard time seeing where we show up in that particular area. It's our blind spot, and it's often where people try to tell us that we're a certain way, but we don't see it, we don't believe it, or we feel really, really justified for being that way. So before we get into this, there is a lot of information out there about Black Moon Lilith, okay? I am coming at you as an evolutionary astrologer who approaches astrology from a psychological perspective. Okay, so yes, is she very connected to sex and intimacy, and is she almost very scorpionic and almost a little mysterious and all of that? She can be. She definitely can be, but that's not all she is. Okay. So I just want to be super clear on my interpretation. If you think differently, amazing. Because that's what this is all about, right? We should all just be passing information as we know it. I studied her as an evolutionary astrologer, and that is the messaging that I want to put forth to you. So before we get into unpacking, let's first talk about where is she now in the transiting chart, right? As far as transiting, and what does she mean? So right now, she's in Virgo. So she went into Virgo on October 3rd of 2023, and she's going to be in there until June 29th of 2024. So when you look at your chart, wherever your Virgo is, you should see a little Black moon with a little stick through it. And that particular part of your life during this transit is where you're really going to be empowered to work through control issues, and the reason is you're approaching new levels of growth, new levels of healing, right? There's a lot of liberation that's going to be going on during the Pluto transit in the sign of Virgo, right? But it's not always easy. and it's not always pretty. And Virgo is very connected to problem solving, but Virgo is also very, very critical. So depending on where your Virgo energy is, you could be very critical of yourself, very critical of your friends, your family, your partner, your colleagues, just very critical. Why? Not just because, but it's because Virgo needs that critical eye in order to solve problems. This is where, guys, you could be recognizing in your life that there are some open enemies that you have. People who you thought for a long time were, I guess, if we want to say friends, people who you associated with, who you felt a certain way for, you now might be seeing them in a little bit of a different light. Right. There's a wisdom about Black Moon Lilith in Virgo, truly, right? But let's unpack her a little bit more. So she's in Virgo for those dates. She is transiting, and that's what we're all going to be working out in that Virgo part of our life. Okay. All of us having to do with the transit itself. Now, who is Black Moon Lilith? Well, first of all, let's figure out where she's found. Again, farthest point of the moon around the Earth, the farthest part of the moon's orbit around the Earth, where the moon is absolutely at its most isolated. It's a very isolated space, and it represents your primitive impulses and behaviors in a very raw form, but it also does express the very dark aspects of our personalities, right? Because we all have that dark side, right? So you know how people say, I really want to do shadow work. I really want to get to know myself better. You cannot ever really get to know yourself unless you really know your Black Moon Lilith, your Chiron, and your North and South node. And then you deal with everyone else. Then you deal with your Saturn, your Pluto, your Sun, your rising, and all of that. Okay. So Black Moon Lilith is definitely one that we do need to understand. She is that first thing we think of, right? When we're talking about shadow self, and she connects us very deeply to our primal instincts. What are primal instincts? Sex and hunger and desire and rage and jealousy. And these are just things that sort of come up within us, right? As part of the human condition. She could be a little unleashed in that particular area, right? And it's someplace where we might have a little bit of a hard time seeing ourselves as other people see us, maybe in that particular part of our life. Very revered, very feared, right? Especially according to mythology. Lilith has definitely been long associated with the more shadowy aspect of spirituality in general, but like most powerful women, she's very female, very feminine energy. She's very, very misunderstood. There's a lot of confusion around her. Why? Because she's on the moon. She's in the darkest, most isolated part of the moon's orbit. The moon is our emotions. Our emotions, the moon changes every day and a half to 2.5 days. So there's this changeability. There's this fogginess. There's this, wanting to be one way, but maybe finding self being another way at the same time. So there can be that energy of vacillation at the same time, vulnerability. I consider her as, a force to focus on when someone really wants to fight against the patriarchy of a situation. And we could find ourselves doing that in that space. It's interesting because I will share, because a lot of you ask about my placements. I have my Black Moon Lilith in my 4th house, Aries. And I can tell you that growing up in a large European family with a very domineering, like stereotypical, Italian man, say that. I fought against that patriarchy like nobody's business. Very unlike my siblings. They always used to say, like, Jackie, why don't you just, let daddy go. Like if I got hit, I'd be like, hit me again. You know what I mean? Come on, right here, right here. That was the way I dealt. I face on. Was it often to my own detriment? Yep. And did it create a lot of weird energy with my siblings? I mean, it doesn't help that I have my Chiron, in my 3rd house, Pisces energy. So, and this is so not a woe is me, guys. Trust me when I tell you, if anybody that knows me, like, would laugh that I'm even saying this, but I was like meant to be kind of scapegoated by my siblings. That's just the way it turned out. I was cool with it. I kind of went to the beat of my own drum. But what did that end up leading to? I ended up not having the relationship that I would have ultimately loved to have with my first family as we grew older. You know, I always felt like outside of things different because I handled primarily our father very differently, very differently. I had no patience for him. I identified the unfairness and I spoke out, maybe even overspoke, and maybe even at points where he started to want to change. When we got older, I was very resistant. Was I very ultimately forgiving? Absolutely. But was I very suspicious of it? 100%. That fourth house energy also represents our emotional stability. So I was always shooting myself in the foot when it came to emotional stability because I had a lack of trust in that fourth house energy. So I was always like, get out of my way. I'll take care of myself. I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself. But then on the other side of that, I'd be like, wow, I wish somebody was here for me. You know what I mean? And so there is that kind of vacillating energy, you know. Probably didn't help that I had it in the sign of Aries also. So, but you know, it's that idea of patriarchy but patriarchy, it means all men are bad. No, they're not. We all have male and female in us, but it's a very yang energy, that very male dominant energy, and not to make it about men, because it's that yang, it's that control, it's that come here, you have to do this. Wherever Lilith is, we can sort of push against that energy. Okay. So that's just something I wanted to just sort of throw out there. Who is she, though? She was the first wife of Adam in the Jewish Talmud. You know, and Lilith refused to submit to his sexual domination, and she got out of Dodge. She fled Eden. She was like, no, I don't want to deal with this, right? And she wanted to go and hook up with the angel of death because she found that to be a lot more fulfilling, a lot more satisfying for her. And hooking up with the angel of death, what do you think she ended up spawning? She spawned demon babies, you know, hundreds of them per day. Now, I want you to look at the metaphor of that. This is where she wanted to fight against control. So instead of facing it in any sort of calm way, she didn't have the tools in her toolbox. So she just went in the opposite direction just because. It was easier to go towards the negative than to try to make peace with any sort of organized circumstance, right? So she goes towards this angel of death, this angel of death and birth, death and birth and change and transformation, lack of stability, right? And it's where darkness lingers, and it's where depression and anxiety hang out. And in that energy, there was just so much other energy created, right? It's like the negativity begot more negativity. And so metaphorically, we say the demon babies, right? 100 per day. And after Adam realized, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been that way, maybe I made a mistake, he asked God to bring Lilith back. And she was like, no way. I'm on to this guy and I'm having a much better time. He's way more fun. He appreciates my sexiness. He appreciates my instability and thinks it's a, you know, it's a power. It's one of my superpowers, that kind of energy. And so God created very docile Eve as Adam's new mate, and you know, someone who wouldn't push back, you know, somebody who would honor, right, the understanding that they had, right? And because of that, because of the purity, right, of Eve and Adam and the two, Lilith was then ostracized and she was banned for not complying, and she wasn't allowed to come back. So she was sort of like thrown out of the kingdom because she just couldn't get her act together and be kind of like, I'm saying for lack of a better term, agreeable, right? Just she didn't want to be agreeable. Now, even if when she took a deep breath and calmed down, maybe she could even understand, all right, maybe Adam was that way because he was made that way, and maybe there was no malice. It was very hard for her to do that. And when it was a point where maybe she was able to do it, it was kind of too late. She was already thrown out of the kingdom, right? So now, as a punishment, God told the angels to kill Lilith's children every day, all day. So whatever negativity she spews out, kill it. The negativity, kill it. And this was coming from spirit. This was coming from the higher God, because he did not want that to ultimately end up poisoning positive manifestations, right? So this is ultimately where Lilith became feared as someone who would steal and who would just be she would steal your children, she would steal your man, she would steal whatever she had to do to get whatever it is that she wanted. And just a little fun fact, the word lullaby, how we sing lullabies to children, these children's songs, a lot of them are very dark, right? I mean, I think a lot of us know that. Even a lot of like the children's stories are very dark. But the word lullaby evolved from Hebrew Lilith, goodbye, right? Lilith, goodbye, right? And it ended up evolving into lullaby, but it's Lilith, goodbye, a lullaby, and it's to ward her off or to ward off evil spirits, right? So that's the origination of why we sing lullabies. It's actually to ward off the evil spirits from our children, right? So, I mean, I could kind of go on and on about this, on and on and on. But also another little fun fact, if we remember that Lilith was in Capricorn from November of 2017 through August of 2018, and Capricorn rules patriarchy, and Pluto was in Capricorn at that point, creating change, but bringing stuff up from the past, bringing stuff up that was truthful, the dark side, right? The dark side of the patriarchy. That was the Me Too movement. So, fun connections to make. Not that there was anything fun about that, but it was that the truth coming up, the truth coming out, right? So this is, this is an energy that, we have to just be mindful of wherever she is. Okay. So with that being said, I'm actually going to start with, I'm gonna actually start with our Libra friends, okay? Because you guys are the ones who I spoke to last week. So if you're, I'm just gonna say, if you have Lilith and Libra, because I know a lot of you did, a lot of you expressed to me that you have your Lilith and Libra. So we're actually going to start with Libra, and we're going to go kind of around the wheel. And if you see me looking down again, I'm just looking at charts here. All right, guys. So we're going to get started with Libra. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, Libra. So I want to discuss this transit. I want to discuss this transit. I do want to discuss the Great Conjunction transit. First, we're going to unpack Lilith, what it means to have Lilith in either Libra and or the seventh house. Okay, because whatever, if Lilith is in your seventh house, even if you have her in another sign, if you have her in the seventh house, you experience her through the lens of Leo. That's how astrology works. Okay, so if you have Lilith in Libra and or the seventh house, I'm going to discuss what that means. And then I'm going to kind of move it forward to what you need to understand about this great conjunction that we're going to be having in April, about how the transiting Lilith is speaking to this energy, okay? Where that's going to be happening, transiting. So let's talk about Libra in Lilith, okay? Again, also the seventh house. And whether you realize it or not, you do have a dark side to your nature in that you're never really satisfied when it comes to your major relationships. Now that could have to do with marriage, that could have to do with any sort of like soul connected energy. This could also, Libra also represents contracts, literal and metaphorical. So it could be a boss, it could be bosses, it could be the way in which you service people in your industry. There could be this like constant restlessness, right? It's possible that you don't even wish to marry because you can't find somebody who you believe measures up to what it is that you're looking for. Now, that's on one level. On another level, you may make a commitment only to ultimately end up complaining incessantly about your partner who is less than perfect, or getting that job and then complaining incessantly about that boss, right? You could find it very difficult to be satisfied in a committed relationship, over the long term, because all you see is the dark side of your spouse, of your partner, or of that seventh house Libra/Libra situation. Now, the problem is that you're not seeing things very clearly, and that's okay. This is like, please show yourself some grace, right? When we're talking about Lilith, because it is a blind spot. The word blind means you can't see it very easily, but you can work with her, because it's a blind spot that once you have some light shown on it and you sit with it for a little bit and you allow yourself to be very honest about the situation, that's where you can make fun of yourself. I'm a big fan of making fun of ourselves, and you can heal from that point, okay? Because what happens here is it's likely that the intimacy demanded by marriage is triggering a subconscious memory for you of your parents' relationship. Whether your parents stayed married or they were divorced or whatever it is, on a soul level, you may not even realize it, how you process what relationship, what connection is supposed to look like. This idea of what is like a healthy relationship, even with a boss, supposed to look like. So whether you realize it or not, an unsavory aspect of your parents' union is playing out in your subconscious mind. And this could end up, impacting the way you do relationship. You seek perfection in your partner as a way of avoiding the emotional pain associated with those old memories. And once you've acknowledged this reality, then you could start to break free and find a very loving and rewarding bond. It doesn't mean you can't have it, but it does mean that this is something that you will have to unpack at some point in order to have a kind of fulfilling relationship that you really want. And the reality is, at some point in your life, you likely felt ashamed or wronged for needing companionship or seeking approval from others in one way or another. Or you may otherwise feel that dependency and compromise are very weak and not right, not a good thing to do. And you could even feel very uncomfortable with people who seem to need these things, right? People who need to have that compromise or who seem weak. Somebody seems weak, like in relationship, it could be such a turnoff to you. And even but it's the kind of thing where you're feeling it, right? Because remember, she's on the moon, right? It's emotions. It's what we feel, right? So, in the absence of self-acceptance regarding these very real needs, right? Extremes of these behaviors in these areas can definitely end up resulting in it can perpetuate the cycle of a problem. So for you, working on self-acceptance is your key to empowerment, understanding that, okay, I might be like this in relationship. I'm not looking to blame anybody, but just to put it in context, I do have to think about my early experience and my early exposure to the idea of relationship. Where was my idea of relationship established? I'm really looking at that very, very honestly, right? And once you can do that, and once you unpack that and you shine some light on it, this really does not have to be an issue anymore. And it could actually be an area of like unbelievably deep intimacy, deep attraction, deep connection. But it's not until you kind of unpack that aspect of yourself. Okay, my friends. So I hope that was helpful in some way. Thanks so much for hanging with me. I'll see you next time. All right, silly me. I didn't talk about the conjunction. So for you guys, this great conjunction in April is going to be happening in your eighth house. Yes, it's eighth house. So if you happen to have Lilith in there, you have to be super careful because this conjunction is going to be Uranus and Jupiter, the great benefic and that revolutionary energy. This could make you in the eighth house want to bust out of a situation. Get me out of here. A lot of you are going to be like, it's time for divorce. I got to go. Time for me to sell this business, time for me to deal with this situation, time for me to get married, time for me to have a baby, time for me to decide to not do something. Endings and beginnings. It will be very, very profound for you guys. Now, if you have Lilith activating that eighth house energy, you want to make sure that you don't get in your own way because Jupiter expands whatever it's near. So Jupiter can expand that Lilith energy, expand your blind spot. So it's so important that you understand this about yourself where, any kind of energy that's going on there, you have to make sure that if it's aspecting your Lilith, it's going to be like, oh, I got to make sure I don't end up self-sabotaging myself here. Where, let's say, for example, you're in some sort of legal bind and there's some legal situation and there's a dollar amount attached to it where you find like, I'm not giving in. This is what I need. This is what I want. And you might want to step back and say, okay, hold on a second. I'm trying to control the situation a little too much, right? Totally understandable. It is totally understandable because you do have Lilith transiting in that 12th house energy, which is the house of the hidden, behind the scenes, how we end things, but it's also a place of planning. So you want to make sure that you are not trying to strategize, but in a way where you don't have all the information. You don't want to be too reactionary, because with Lilith in the 12th house, you could also be self-sabotaging. So just be very, very careful with how you progress forward if you're engaging with another person in any sort of situation. Okay, very, very important. Now, it is trining. If you do have your Lilith in the 8th house, right? Native, your natal Lilith, and the transiting is in the 12th house, there is a trine there. So you do have support, but it could be very easy also in that trined position for you to not really see it. Like, right? You could feel super, super justified in that situation. So I'm not saying not to go forward with something. And I'm not suggesting that something is totally anyone else's fault. I'm not suggesting that, but steady as she goes, really like pay attention to take in something slow, unpack it one at a time, and be really fair. Because Black Moon Lilith in the 8th house, when it comes to settlements, finances, debt, taxes, other people's money, right? We could feel like if we feel too controlled by the situation, we try to like bust out, right? So we have to be a little bit careful there, okay? All right. So I did want to mention that, okay? Libra. Now, also, if you have your Lilith in the 8th house, for you guys, Libra rising, for those of you who are watching it for that, you would have your Lilith in the sign of Taurus, right, in the 8th house. So you would want to watch Taurus or second house energy, Scorpio, 8th house energy as well. Okay, my friends, so that is what I have for you. I will see you guys next time. Okay, bye-bye. Scorpio, so transiting Lilith happens to be in your 11th house. So again, going back to this idea of needing to bust through and sort of feel a lot more liberated, transiting in the sign of Virgo in your 11th house, this could certainly make you want to feel a lot more liberated when it comes to your goals and gains and where your life is going. Just feel a lot more in control, and like things are being handled in a much more a more fair way when it comes to friends, associates, older siblings, stepchildren, grandchildren, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, or just simply your goals and gains. So Lilith in the 11th house could initially make you feel like you got the lousy end of the stick, right? When it comes to how things are progressing out. And you're in this space where you're really trying to figure out, now what, right? Where is this next step of my life going? Okay. But now I want to speak to those of you who have your Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Scorpio and or located in the 8th house. If you have your Black Moon Lilith in a different sign other than Scorpio, but it's in the 8th house, you experience your Black Moon Lilith through the lens of Scorpio, because Scorpio is the landlord of the 8th house. All of your placements in the 8th house get experienced through the lens of Scorpio. So what does that mean? The Black Moon place there, okay, is all about the intimate details of your life that you would really much prefer stay hidden and forgotten. But she wants to reveal these things. And this is because the darker aspect of her energy is associated with sexuality, with birth, debt, lust, greed, and other ideas that are equally as intimate. So it's also, and I could hear a lot of you are going to be saying amen to what I'm about to say. It is possible, and I find this very often with a lot of my clients who have this placement, that you end attracting inadvertently. This is not like you get up in the morning and you ask for it, the darker elements of society into your life. It's like, okay, why do I keep attracting the crazies or the people who can't commit or the people with addiction or the people who are, they have a rap sheet or, but you know what I mean. Okay. This can vary from that spouse or partner who gambles irresponsibly, or you could even find yourself in a neighborhood with just like violent neighbors or people who are just rather unhinged. Energies that could end up turning violent pretty easily, pretty quickly. This is not unusual. Lilith in the eighth house can also, or Scorpio, can also indicate sexual addiction. There's a lot, this is an energy that's very connected to the past, guys. So even past life, it doesn't even have to be in this energy, but really looking at your relationship to sex, to sexuality, because there could be a lot of darkness. There could actually be a lot of like um tendency towards, and I'm going to say, you know, in an elevated way, promiscuity, in an unelevated way, just reckless, irresponsible behavior when it comes to sex, or you know, borderlining on like being abusive, you know. Now, this could even be an energy that you're carrying from a past life, or this could even be part of your family's history that you're sort of carrying in your energetic DNA, even if you're not acting out on it. So really looking at your relationship to the actual sex, right? And how do you feel about it? And how, you know, and how do you handle that energy? Okay. So a lot of you are going to understand exactly what I'm talking about here. The challenge for you is to face the depths of your own dark side and really hold it to the light, right? Because you need to delve beyond the norm to discover the undercurrents at play. Because remember, this is also the space in the chart where astrology hangs out, the occult sciences, you know, um, everything that's like dark and unresolved as well. Like that, everything that's unresolved hangs out in the eighth house, you know, in the basement there for us to figure out, right? Pluto, modern ruler is Pluto, and he's the, you know, ruler of the underworld. Part of what he does is he brings stuff up from the past and he brings it up so we can expect whatever is happening in this, in our Scorpio slash eighth house energy is going to be, it's going to be rattled this year. It's definitely going to be rattled this year. Because of Pluto's transit into Aquarius. So rather than blaming other people for disrupting, you know, your life, your peace of mind, your energy, you really should thank them because they represent your opportunity to face your own emotional and psychic depths. At some vulnerable point in your life, you likely felt ashamed for a lot of these raw impulses, for this desire for intimacy, attachment, deep contact, right? That deep yearning for something. You could have had one person say one thing one time and it just hit you in the right way where you felt shamed for wanting that level of commitment, that absolute level of commitment, or made you feel shamed for even about money. They make, because Scorpio energy is very connected to other people's money. It has to do with debt. It has to do with taxes. It had to do with, you know, or even energies from the past having to do with ancestral patterning, where there could be some discomfort around ancestral patterning, right? And it's got to be resolved, though. It's got to be resolved, right? So you may feel wronged. You may have felt wronged if you were expressing any of those things, or you might feel wrong if you're expressing jealousy or possessiveness or attachment, and you could feel uncomfortable, especially around anyone who is especially passionate and attached. That kind of energy can make you really, or anybody who's really jealous or anybody who's possessive, you could be like, ugh, ugh, you know, that's so annoying that they're like that, right? You can find yourself like that, but it's actually the way your soul is reacting to that Lilith energy in that space, you know? So a lack of self-acceptance in that area can lead to extremes, and it could end up, you know, blowing out and exacerbating the problem, you know? So there's nothing wrong with saying, I have my Lilith in Scorpio. I struggle with jealousy. I struggle. You know, I struggle with feeling like things are unfair. I struggle with issues around intimacy. I just do, you know. Maybe you realize, you know what? Maybe I use sex as a weapon. Or maybe I use it as an escape. Or maybe I use it as just an absolute way of filling a need in me that I need filled. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like weaponizing it. That sounds so mean, right? There's no malice involved in it. This is just part of your dark side that you don't see. So if you sit down and you give it a lot of thought, you may realize, okay, hey, that's the deal with that. Now, as far as this big conjunction that's going to be happening in April, it's going to be between Jupiter and Uranus. I did mention it in the Pluto video last week, and I just feel like this is something that we should be talking about before it arrives, right? But it's going to be happening in the sign of Taurus, and that happens to be in your seventh house of relationships and contracts. So that's where there's going to be some sort of big energy. Now, it is going to be trining your Lilith energy in the 11th house. So I will tell you that when we have a Lilith trine, this is where it's very easy. Trines are very positive, but it's also very easy for us to see where we may be getting in our own way. It may be a little difficult for us to see where we're trying to really hyper control a situation. And because it's working with the 11th house, you may be sitting down with a partner and just be going, I can't see our future going this way. This is not what I want. And, and like lashing out. So you want to be careful of not lashing out, but you want to take ownership and say, you know what? I don't want to feel like I have to share my partner. I don't want to feel like not at peace with my boss. I don't want to, and even if you're not sharing your partner, if you're not getting what it is that you need, right? And you're just feeling like, I can't do this anymore. This is something that you're going to have to look at with this great conjunction in April. So a lot of you may be like, oh, girl, I feel it already. And you may. This is a big energy. We're going to be feeling the lead up. Okay, the lead up is starting to lead up to this great conjunction, which is actually going to be shifting a lot of the path that a lot of us are living. All right, so I wanted to give a little shout out about like how you can expect. I'm going to be doing a more in-depth video obviously when it gets closer, but I wanted to give a little heads up because I want you to pay attention to these energies right now. Thinking about your goals and gains, thinking about the next 10 to 15 years of your life, looking at your friendships, looking at the people who you connect to right now. What needs to change right now, Scorpio, in order for you to manifest the change that you really want to have in your life? What needs to be let go of and what needs to be deepened and embraced? Because some of you with that conjunction, depends on how it's speaking to your chart. Some of you are going to be like, that's it. I want to get married. I'm ready to get married. I'm ready to go for that new job. I'm ready to change up how I service the people in my business differently. But that is where that big conjunction is going to be happening. But you just want to make sure that you're very open to Lilith, which is all about needing to feel control, right? Okay, my friends. So that is what I have for you. I hope this was helpful in some way. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Okay, so for those of you who are Sagittarius Black Moon Liliths, let's unpack. So this is for you if you have your Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius and or the ninth house. So check your chart. If you have it in the ninth house, you would be listening to the Sagittarius energy as far as house placement goes, because Sag is the landlord of the ninth house. If you have your Lilith in another sign, but in the ninth house, you experience your Black Moon Lilith energy through the lens of Sagittarius. So you have to understand what it means to have Lilith in this place, okay? So we're going to unpack that, and then we will address the great conjunction, just giving you a little heads up advice on how to prep for that over the next couple of months in relation to where we don't want to get in our own way, okay? So Lilith and Sag, in effect, you have a goddess in your house of the gods, in the placement of the gods. Not a comfortable placement, truly. This can indicate that you're at odds with society's establishment, society's expectations, what people expect from you according to societal norms. You know what I mean? This is not, it's not comfortable because you can feel a little different in this way. And you're likely to blame society. You're likely to blame and all that matter, all that, Sagittarius energy also rules law, legalities, local governance, religion, organized or otherwise. um, rules. It's like rules. And you could blame the pillars of society for all of their faults and all of the nonsense maybe that you feel like that they have established as rules that we need to follow in order to be considered accepted, right? There is a patriarchal energy about Sag. So it makes sense that with Lilith in this energy, there is going to be some fighting back, especially like any sort of rigid religious principles, unfair laws, infringement on civil rights. You get the idea, right? It's like anything that feels like viscerally unfair. The truth here is that you're very rebellious. Your philosophies are very different. Your belief system is very different. If you have a reckless need to rebel, then you're likely to cause strife, both for yourself and for those around you. But if you can learn to agree to disagree with the individuals and society as a whole, then you're going to be able to not only approach your unique perspectives, but others around you will be able to respect and accept your unique perspectives as well. And they'll even really appreciate it as well. Now, it's probably likely that at some very sensitive point in your life, you felt ashamed at some profound point for your curiosity, your questions, your restlessness, your need to challenge, fill in the blank, whether it was your religion, facts that you were being raised in, beliefs, or a need to get away and expand and seek meaning. I do want to say that, with Lilith in either the ninth house and or Sagittarius energy, beautiful placement to be a teacher, a lawyer, politician, philosopher, um, professor, and any kind of energy like that. Really nice energy there. I do have to say that. Now keep in mind, and I've said this a lot, Sagittarius in our chart, Sagittarius in the ninth house represents the manifestation of our father's energy. So naturally, there's a very patriarchal vibe to it, right? Very patriarchal edge to it. But you might have been made to feel like bad about yourself for questioning and asking a lot of questions. You might have even been told to like be quiet and shut up, right? Because this energy, Sagittarius, a ninth house energy, it opposes Gemini, which is where we communicate. So there could have been a lot of challenges there where it's like, sit down, shut up, you're weird, you think differently, and this is the way it is. And why do you always have to question everything? And the thing here is you might even feel really uncomfortable around people who express those Sagittarian traits, not really questioning them. And what I mean by that is anyone who seems to know better, anyone who seems to know everything, right? Because that's a very Sag energy. It really is, because it's the higher minded energy. Oh, I don't need to learn that. I'm just fine, um, where they're not very open to seeing things differently, right? You can really have very little patience for people like that. And especially when you feel stressed, these things can be brought to extreme. So, as with any Lilith placement, it's all about working on acceptance in that area. That is the key to empowerment. So really calling yourself out, or maybe I am a little rough around the edges when it comes to my beliefs or the way I handle things, or, railing against father energy. And, it's so having a hard time putting all of that in perspective, calling yourself out. And, you might be at a space in your life where you have figured that out already. And if that's the case, congratulations. But keep in mind, we are like onions with legs. You could think you figured it out, and then some sort of cycle can come back around and it could challenge it all over again, right? So just to kind of keep that in mind. Now, the great conjunction that's happening in April in the sign of Taurus is going to be happening in your sixth house. So that sixth house energy has to do with your daily work environment. It has to do with your people who work for you, as well as your coworkers, as well as your health, mental, physical, emotional, and your pets, your domestic pets. Now, this is going to be trining the transiting Lilith and Virgo energy in your 10th house. So there could be this very strong desire right now with Lilith and Virgo is all about really wanting to look at where do you feel controlled and trying to get a grip on that when it comes to your career, when it comes to your long-term goals, when it comes to standing in the world. There could be this like feeling of control, like you want to have a lot more control. Now, you just want to make sure that you don't get in your own way with your, needing your belief systems to be honored in a certain way. It's all about diplomacy right now. So this great conjunction that comes up in April, what's best going to serve you in that sixth house when it comes to work, even when it comes to a health situation, being very sort of open to seeing things in a different way, being very diplomatic, being accepting of a circumstance in a fair way. Exercise your belief system. Don't be walked on, but you also don't want to try to push your agenda without recognizing what other people are bringing to a situation as well. Okay, guys, so that's going to be happening. I'm going to do obviously a longer, very detailed video the closer we get to that, but this is something that we could start to really think about now. Like, okay, this is going to be really impacting my sixth house of health as well as my day-to-day work environment, thinking about my career, thinking about my long-term goals. Where am I going? Right. And there is going to be this energy where there's going to be this feeling where you're going to feel like you want to put your foot down. Nothing wrong with that, but just be mindful of how it is that you're communicating your desires there. Okay. All right, my friend. So I hope that was helpful in some way. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Hi, Lilith in Capricorn, okay, or 10th house energy. So if you have Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn and or the 10th house, so even if it's in a different sign, if it's in the 10th house, that means that you experience your Black Moon Lilith energy through the lens of Capricorn, which means that you have to understand what this placement means, okay? So we're first going to unpack what that means, and then we're going to apply it to the Great Conjunction, which is happening in April, coming up in April. So Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn tells me that you like to be in charge. I get you. I'm Capricorn rising. I get it. So you like to be in charge. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. In fact, it means that you're often willing to take responsibility when others aren't. Okay. However, the problem comes in when you don't really recognize your need to let go and give other people an opportunity to show up. Okay. And you don't mean to do that. You don't mean to impose your will on other people. At one level, you may honestly believe that you can just do a better job. So it's like, get out of my way. I could do a better job. So just go sit down, you know, or you think that you're the only one available. And that could be a problem too. It's like, well, nobody else can do it. I have to do it. Well, did you ask anybody else? I don't want to put anybody out. I'm not, well, ask somebody else. You can delegate. That makes you feel very uncomfortable, right? That whole idea of delegating, right? Now, you may not be conscious of excluding other people, but you do. Sooner or later, those around you are likely to resent your need for control. And the Black Moon does represent that darker side of your nature and its characteristics that you know exist and you need to address, but you would prefer not to acknowledge. And this sensitive point in this sign, in this Capricorn energy, um, is that you need to be in charge of everything. You think that others are trying to tell you what to do, but they're most likely not. They're most likely just trying to help you loosen up a little bit. You need to face the fact that your sense of duty is self-defeating. It is. It's self-defeating on a particular level. Once you can let go and have others have their say and allow other people to help you out and assist you with things, then you're likely to feel a lot better. And your strength is tenfold after that. And you're likely to be a lot more flexible as well, allowing other people to help. Now, the chances are you have this placement because at some critical point energetically, you were made to feel bad or shamed or otherwise wronged for your desire to excel or succeed or reach for worldly goals and ambitions. And you can even feel really uncomfortable around people who seem materialistic, who seem status conscious, or are particularly business minded and practical and ambitious, it can be hard to connect with your own ambitions. And it's that could be really difficult, for you to connect with in a healthy way, and your need for others' esteem, right? But allowing yourself to sort of go there and think about it and feel it can be absolutely life-changing. Now, on the other hand, you could feel very uncomfortable with these things. And you could go to extremes in these areas and then feel really bad afterwards. And what that could look like is really like attacking people because they have more, or they have a higher status than you, or they have more, and it could just be like brings out the ugly, right? Because she could bring out the ugly. We don't mean to be that way. It's our dark side. So you want to be a little bit careful there, right? And as with any Lilith placement, the path to empowerment, self-acceptance and moderation. Shine a little light on there and go, oopsie, yep, I could totally be like that. I don't mean anything by it. I can be a little controlling. I really don't like to ask for help. And it's like, okay, I need to calm down and practice, allowing people to help, allowing other people to also feel capable, and competent, because not doing that can really make people feel bad, even though that's certainly not what it is that you are looking to make anybody feel like, right? Now, so that Lilith energy, it is happening. I didn't mention this yet. I'm sorry. So this Lilith energy is in Virgo in your ninth house. Okay. And it's trining the great conjunction that's going to be happening in your fifth house. So fifth house has to do with your children. It has to do with so I'm going to give you a very practical thing that could happen here, right? Depends on the age and stage and where you're at in your life, obviously. But fifth house represents children, among other things, because it's going to be trining Lilith in Virgo, which is really going to be where we could be feeling very controlled, and we don't want to feel very controlled anymore. That ninth house energy has to do with higher education. Fifth house has to do with children. Ninth house energy also represents like the institution of marriage. So there can be some sort of discordant energy between you and your child about going to college, or maybe one of your kids is looking to get divorced. So there could be some discordant energy between you just wanting to be happy and the energy of a spouse, and how you guys, what your ideas are moving forward in life right now. And the thing is, trying to very positive and supportive, but because it's working with Lilith, we could feel very justified in this area, where it's like, no, I know what I believe, and I know how I want to move forward. Now, on a more practical level, the ninth house also has to do with negotiating, marketing, advertising, and launching, foreign land, foreign travel. Because the fifth house is very connected to falling in love affairs, romance, there can be this sort of energy where it's like, if you're in a relationship with somebody who either lives at a distance, or who's in connected to another culture, or maybe if there's discordant energies between you and father energy, or you and a second spouse, there's going to be this feeling of wanting to sort of, kind of lean into your belief system and why it is that you feel very controlled, right? Or what you could even feel like somebody's trying to control you with their belief system, or an idea that you wish to launch, market, or advertise still has some sort of hold on you on the one level. The other level can be an absolutely fabulous opportunity coming in, where something creative, fifth house energy, is financed, right? And you're getting so there's some sort of practical negotiation having to go on with it, that may be going on during this great conjunction. Regardless, whatever it is, the fact that Lilith is going to be in the ninth house, which is very connected to communications, right? It's very connected to communicating, because it works with Gemini. You really want to make sure that you're watching your words, and you're staying very open. Okay. You're staying very open to the situation. Okay, my friends, I will definitely be doing a longer video when that transit gets closer. But again, just start paying attention to those things now as the next few months roll out. So it's not so surprising when it happens. Okay, my friends, with that, I will see you guys later. Thanks for hanging with me. Bye bye. I Lilith in Aquarius or the 11th house, and or the 11th house, either of those. I'm going to give you this interpretation. Now, regardless whether you have it in the sign of Aquarius or you have it in the 11th house, but especially if you have it in Aquarius, this is going to be getting rattled with this Pluto energy. Okay. Now, having Lilith in Aquarius, friendships are a little fraught in your lifetime. You can have some challenges, right? And it could be cyclical, guys. You know what I mean? It could be that. Um, Now, if you have it in the 11th house, but you have it in a different sign, obviously that's going to inform it differently. But friendships can be a little tricky. Um, Energy having to do with older siblings, stepchildren, grandchildren, daughter-in-laws, son-in-laws, general colleagues, the whole connection to your goals and gains. There could be some tense energy there. You may feel like your friends fail to live up to your expectations on a particular level, or that you cannot really count on them, or maybe even that they don't listen the way that you would really like to. You can often feel like this, right? Where you feel like you have something to say and people maybe speak over you or around you. That could definitely be frustrating, right? But really looking at like, why is that happening? So Lilith in this energy indicates that you like to be part of a group, to be connected to like-minded friends. You do like to socialize, at least to a certain extent. However, you can feel rejected and you believe that it's others who are rejecting you. You could certainly feel like that. In fact, though, guys, the opposite is likely to be true. You may not fully realize that you are quite fixed in your ideas, or that you're imposing your particular thoughts and how it is that you feel on others, and you expect them to agree. And it could really ruffle your feathers when others don't agree with you, because it's like, how could you not see this? How do you feel that way? It's ridiculous, that kind of energy. Any sign of disagreement is viewed as a lack of support. It is this and your inability to accept differences in your friends that could trigger any sort of social problems that you may encounter at one point or another in your life. Now, of course, you can join a group with similar ideas and ideals that, totally in alignment with everything that you think, but sooner or later, someone within that group is bound to hold a different opinion or, express a different value. It's only a matter of time. So you need to learn to face your own level of intolerance, right? Because Aquarius energy, keep in mind, in a very illuminated form, is very much about tolerant for the masses, very much about community and all of that. But with a Lilith here, it's that shadow. It's very intolerant, right? Very intolerant energy. So if you can learn to agree to disagree, then you are likely to enjoy connections with other people from all walks of life, from all different, and really open yourself up to learning new things from different people. It really is about being flexible. All right. Your social life, your dealings with any group of people will be so much happier if you can really viscerally, I mean, like really, not like make believe, but really be flexible in your attitude, right? And chances are that you have this placement because at some point in your life you felt ashamed or off for wanting to be part of a group or a team or a community, for being one of the crowd, right? You could maybe like, maybe you were ostracized or you were teased or you just felt different then. Do you know what I mean? Even if the people didn't mean to do it, this isn't about placing blame. It's about putting it in context. And you could even feel pretty weary or suspicious rather, like, around people who seem to need these things, who need to be wanted, who need to be part of a community, who need all of that. That can actually make you kind of uncomfortable, right? And so the answer isn't to reject those basic needs, because you do want to be needed as well, right? I mean, that's not going to, since that can result in binging and purging on a social level, going all out, you know, finding friends, connecting, right? Giving your heart and soul, and then feeling bad about it, and then hiding away, saying, I'm never accepted. I don't, nobody ever understands me. And then that cycle repeating itself again. And again, this is not to say that you don't feel that way, but you have to understand that wherever Lilith is, we feel a different type of sensitivity. And we do end up not realizing these things about our own emotions and about our own actions as a result of those emotions. Now, when we're talking about the great conjunction that's going to be happening between Jupiter and Uranus, um, in um, your fourth house, because that's where it's going to be happening. So the fourth house has to do with emotional stability, where it is that you're living. It's very connected to the people who live with you. There could be some changes going on the home front. There could be some shakeups having to do with your own emotional stability. But now, Lilith is 4 houses away from you, so she's going to be in a trine position in the sign of Virgo in your 8th house. So that 8th house, that is where you're feeling very controlled by endings and beginnings and the need to let go and the need to transition. And a lot of you guys are going through so much change. Of course, you're going through change because Pluto just went into your sign, okay? But the thing is, trines are very supportive, but they can be very lazy, where it's like, no, this is how I feel. I'm good with it. You know, and so because it's the 8th house, which is very controlling, transiting energy, a lot of you really be wanting to bust out of a situation that you feel like is holding you back. So some of you may be really wanting to move. Some of you may be really wanting to end a relationship that's very 4th house energy. So it could be with a significant other. It could be, some kind of energy having to do with your first family, right? This could be, if you're dealing with any sort of inheritance situation, if you're dealing with the buying or selling of property, of anything like that, if you're dealing with working from home, if you're dealing with paying off debt and taxes, any of these, because obviously we're going to be doing that in April, you really want to make sure that you're staying very open to how these things are being handled. You don't want to be overwhelmed. You don't want to have any sort of meltdown or freak out over, like, let's say, a tax bill that comes in, or how an inheritance situation is being handled, a divorce situation is being handled, anything like that. I'm only saying that because we do have Jupiter in the house, which is, she's a great benefic, working with beautiful Uranus. Uranus is that revolutionary energy, but trining Lilith is very easy for us to feel very emotional and very held back and held in because of some sort of turn of events. This could be very positive or it could be a little tricky, but either way, that energy of control that's going on in the 8th house can absolutely be coming up, right? This idea of anxiety and depression, that could even be like rising to the top. It doesn't even really have to do with anybody else. It could just be your own energy from the past coming up to the top to look at. And then at the same time, it could be so healing. That conjunction could just be like, you know what? Everything's going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. It could bring a lot of clarity in that space, right? All right, my friends. So I'm going to talk about that a lot more the closer that happens. But I let you know, to be forewarned is to be forearmed, and that's the part of life. So start keeping yourself open to the nuances, right? Between that 4th house, 8th house energy transiting, and really look at where that Lilith energy is. So if you are watching this for your Lilith in Aquarius, or your 11th house, make sure you're watching it both for the sign and for the house placement. You have to put those two together, okay? All right, my friends, thanks for hanging with me. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hello, Black Moon Lilith in Pisces and or the 12th house. So if you have it could be in a different sign, but if it's in the 12th house, that means that you experience your Black Moon Lilith energy through the lens of Pisces. Obviously, if you have your sun, your Black Moon Lilith in Pisces, this would connect with you as well, resonate with you as well. So those two placements. Okay, so first I'm going to unpack what it means, and then we're going to connect it to the great conjunction that's going to be happening in April. So whether you realize it or not, Black Moon Lilith and Pisces, you do have a dark side to your nature in that you delve too deeply into certain matters in your life where you believe that other people are the problem, and maybe they are. Not saying that you are the only problem here, okay? But you need to focus on not only how you could be impacting the situation, but focus on things in a lighter way, in a much lighter manner, because it's very easy for you to get lost in the imaginary world, in your spirituality, in your imagination, in anything Piscean. It could even be, there could be a lot of self-medicating that goes on too. That's super common with this placement because Pisces is the energy that rules disease and addiction, you know. So this could be certainly be something that, but it's not only that, it's many things, but this is something that you might want to look at, this idea of kind of like losing yourself. That ability should be put to a better use, right? You can use that depth and that intense energy to concentrate for long periods of time. And this could absolutely be very helpful in other areas of life. But you first need to learn self-discipline. Self-discipline is one of the big lessons when we have Black Moon Lilith in Pisces and or the 12th house. Now, you may have felt ashamed at some point in your life for being needy, for needing things, maybe from people who were supposed to be taking care of you, and maybe they were battling their own demons and their own circumstances. And on a soul level, again, none of this is to ever blame anybody. It's just about to put it in context, but you didn't get what it is that you needed. Maybe you needed compassion, but you felt ashamed for that, or maybe you were made fun of for your spiritual side, maybe you were made fun of because of your belief system, right? Um, Feeling very connected to the other side can also be Black Moon, Lilith, and Pisces, right? You can feel very connected, but then people making fun of you for that and just feeling like, oh, I have to keep my mouth shut. The fact that I'm very intuitive, I can't tell anybody because they're going to just think I'm a freak. And then you could just feel like pushed down and controlled and want to fight against that, right? So that could make you feel very uncomfortable or annoyed with people um, who resist labels, who are not very assertive, uh, who never want to take the lead in situations. You could feel very uncomfortable around people like that, where it's like you. And it's funny because Pisces is typically like go with the flow, right? It's like the bottomless ocean there, right? Well, by Neptune. But with Black Moon Lilith in there, it's sort of like it's almost like a debilitated Piscean energy. So there's not that much patience that goes on there. And it's the result of being made to feel comfortable for those other beautiful aspects. So, you can feel just have no patience for people who are not assertive in their life and not ready to take the lead. It could really wear on your patience. You don't have a lot of patience for that. Rejecting or feeling ashamed of your own basic needs in those areas can lead to going to extremes in behavior and repeating cycles of binging and purging those traits of, really desperately wanting to be accepted and feel understood, and all of that, being seen for who it is that you really are, this unconditional loving and giving person. But when you're not, you can lash out like nobody's business in there and feel in the moment, first of all, like kind of justified, and you very well may be, and you could easily blame other people, and it may certainly be them, but understand that why would you be in connection with people who would be that way anyway, right? Obviously, this would be related to like friends or significant others. Family, we're kind of stuck with family there, right? Um, but it's all about moderation and acceptance and understanding that if you have your Lilith in Leo, you need to first of all call out um your tendency to get very lost in things, the tendency for self-medications, addictive behaviors. An addiction doesn't have to be to substances, it could be to ideas, ideals, it could be to money, it could be to sex, it could be to different things, right? um those could all be challenges that you deal with. So this idea of discipline is something that needs to be established, and that, not to look to other people to have to be the strong and steady, right? You want that, you want to be able to be able to manifest that, but that's where it could be a little tricky. So hopefully that makes sense for you. Now, for you guys, for this energy of the great conjunction, um, Lilith is transiting in Virgo. For Pisces energy in general, um, the Black Moon Lilith is going to be in the seventh house. So with that energy is going to be, the conjunction is going to be happening in your third house. So there's going to be a trine there. And remember, the third house is a Geminian house, right? It's Mercury, it's ruled by Mercury. So it's very connected to how we think, how we communicate, how we process. And because it's in a trine, when it comes to this idea with an energy, Lilith is very connected to feeling very controlled, right? So if you're feeling very controlled in your relationship and you're feeling like you need to bust out of a situation, when that conjunction hits, in April, you're gonna have a really hard time sitting on those emotions. 100%. What I like about it, I think Lilith can be very empowering in this space where you can absolutely stand up for yourself, but you just want to watch, try to maintain a temperate, right? When it comes to how it is that you're expressing yourself, because with that trine energy, it's very easy for you to not feel the need to watch how you're saying anything, right? It's, get more what bees with honey than you do, right, with vinegar kind of thing. So, and I'm recommending that to everybody, okay? Because that Uranus conjunction, it's not like we're going to wake up right in the middle of April and, it's boom. For some of us, it can be. It depends on what else is going on in your chart. But this energy is rolling out in the month of April. We're going to start to feel it building, obviously, before that, but it's going to be changing the trajectory, right? Especially over the course of the next year, which will then, of course, change the course of things moving forward after that. So that is how that energy is going to be impacting you. Okay. So I wanted to just bring that to your attention. I hope this was helpful in some way. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hello, Lilith in Aries and or the first house. I'm going to be unpacking what Lilith means here. And then at the end, for Aries rising, I'm going to discuss how the transiting Black Moon Lilith is going to be speaking to the Great Conjunction. So hopefully that won't be too confusing. That's why I'm doing the timestamps as I'm doing it. So first, if you have Lilith in Aries and or the first house, um, Lilith here craves expression that matches a very strong identity, very strong identity. Um, there's a lot of this is who I am kind of energy here. And this placement is asking you to explore how your personal passions fuel your instincts and what it is that you feel like is right or wrong. Like really looking at how you feel about yourself in connection to the people around you. Because if you're happy, then everyone else around you is happy. Conversely, when you're not happy and you're upset, the other people around you are upset. And you think it's because of other people's behavior, but you are the one who has the impact on those around you. And again, you may feel justified in the moment. It doesn't mean that Everybody is, that you're not without cause. It's not about that. But your reactions can be really upsetting, and you could be blaming other people for all of that. So whether you realize it or not, this dark side of your nature comes out in that you inadvertently lash out when you're upset. Occasionally, this placement of Lilith in the first house or Aries can indicate withdrawing from the company of others. It's very easy for you to withdraw. I have mine in Aries too, in the fourth house. So I have to look at Aries and I have to look at Cancer because I have it in the fourth house. But I know for me, I can easily withdraw from people. Now, whether you withdraw or you lash out, you blame other people. It's a dark spot, right? Ooh. So really, what do? We shine some light on it. We make fun of ourselves. Like, yeah, I tend to do that. Sorry. We all have it somewhere, right? You can accuse others of doing wrong, and yet it is your unhappiness that is unsettling people around you, whether it's your family members, your colleagues, your friends, doesn't matter. Sometimes your own dark feelings can affect your physical or mental health as well. And this placement a little bit more than other energies, because Aries rules the head, which houses the mind. And so that Lilith energy having to do with the mind, it could um, really impact your health, where your mental health and then ends up ultimately impacting your physical health, especially because it's five signs away from Virgo energy, right? That Aries energy there. So you do have to be a little careful of that. But once you figure it out, once you claim your own feelings and you break the cycle of blame, right? Is that self-defeating, right? You're free from self-defeating behavior, right? Because Black Moon Lilith in Aries under the first house represents self. So it's like you keep sabotaging stuff for yourself. Self-defeating. So shine some light on it in that space and say, all right, when it comes to trying to figure out my journey, my path, what it is that I want to do I tend to blame other people or extenuating circumstances for the reason that I'm not where I want to be? Really being very honest with yourself about that, calling yourself on it, you know? Because you want to get in front of that, because it's that self-understanding and acceptance that brings a lot of relief and maybe even just significant joy into your life. And the reason you had this, first of all, you're meant to gain the wisdom of this energy, and you could even make a great counselor. Any kind of counselor, even if it's just a friend who people lean on, or a psychotherapist, or a great energy also for astrology, anything like that, any sort of counseling energy in that point. But you likely have it because at some point in your life, you felt that asserting yourself and making some sort of executive decision was either selfish or it was wrong. It's like, shut up, that kind of energy. For me, I was the youngest of five, so I was always being told to shut up. If I tried to make a decision for myself, I got ignored, literally, and this is so not a woe is me energy, whatever. That ended up empowering me to just become very independent, right? But you may have also felt shame for displaying any sort of self-centered traits. Think, oh, who do you think you are? Why are you so focused on yourself? Or for taking the lead in things without asking, or for making self-centered choices. Well, of course, we're going to make self-centered choices if nobody's allowing us to ever take the lead. We're going to be very resistant against that patriarchal kind of like yang energy. And we're going to try to be assertive, of course, but then other people are like, who do you think you are? Hmm? And you could even feel really suspicious of people who express very Aries traits, who are very bossy, or who are in any well very self-serving, largely because you're amazed that they get away with it without apology, because it's just not who you are. It's like, how do they even get away with that? That's ridiculous, right? And there could also be some fear of taking the lead, fear of asserting yourself, making executive decision, but a simultaneous desire to do so. And that could end up leading to extremes, right? Where it's almost like waves of, I got to get in front of this. I got to take control, So there's got to be a balancing out, got to be a tempering of the energy. And learning to accept this trait in yourself is absolutely the key. It's the key here. Now, moving on to those of you who are Aries rising, those of you who are Aries rising, when it comes to this great conjunction, the transiting Black Moon Lilith, which is very focused on what part of your life are you feeling very controlled by, this is that sixth house energy. Now, you may be feeling very controlled by some sort of daily responsibility. There could be an illness either within yourself or within your family that you feel like is sort of getting in the way of where it is that you want to go. It could have to do with your work, right? Now, it is trining this energy, which is an easy energy, but because it's Lilith, it could be very easy to not see um, how something is controlling you. You could just know that you're sick and tired and you want to just bust out of something, right? Especially with that Aries energy ruling that, yeah, obviously in that fourth house, but the North Node is in there. It's like, I'm ready for new, I'm ready for novel, I'm ready for that fresh path, a new perspective. So you can expect, right, when this big conjunction happens, it's going to be happening in your second house. Okay, so your energy, that North Node energy is in the first house. Lilith is going to be trining the conjunction, which is happening in your second house of your money, your sense of self, your self-esteem, and your ability to have a strong foundation. So yeah, and also second house does rule your internal body. So with that trine, right, with the sixth house, it's very easy to maybe not see where are you getting in the way of not taking better care of your health. Be very easy to not see that. It could be, right, but it's something that's got control over you, right? So that could be anything having to do with not eating the right diet, not exercising enough. There could be some sort of self-sabotaging behavior that goes on that might need to be looked at. Could be. For others of you, feeling controlled by that daily work environment, feeling controlled by daily responsibilities. There's definitely going to be this, I want to bust out of here kind of energy, but you want to temper it. So remember now, Black Moon Lilith is in Virgo for you guys in the home of Virgo. So you have the opportunity for this great conjunction that's hitting in April to problem solve better than any of the other placements here. So it's going to be all about problem solving and re-strategizing and revamping your day-to-day responsibilities, or getting in front of some sort of health situation having to do with you or a member of your family. Okay, so that is what I have for you guys. I hope that was helpful in some way. Also, I do want to mention, I'm just noticing this, especially because that Black Moon Lilith, I just noticed this now, as deep into the signs as we are, that Lilith energy is going to be within 10 degrees of Juno retrograde. Juno does represent marital commitment. So a lot of you may be really looking at, who does what within a marriage? How are responsibilities being shared? How on the same page is your significant other with you? Right? Really looking at, it could certainly be that. Others of you, it could absolutely, you might not be married, you might not have that energy, but how committed are you to your health? How committed are you to that job that you're in? Right? And really looking at making change there. But remember, temper it, right? Because that Jupiter is working with Uranus, we can have a get me out of here kind of energy, right? And it is ultimately very, very good, but we just want to temper how we're communicating, right? Especially when it comes to anything where we're feeling very controlled. We want to be careful with how we address it, right? How we address that energy. I hope this was helpful in some way, guys. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. So welcome Taurus, Lilith, Taurus, Black Moon Lilith in Taurus and or the second house. Also, for those of you who are Taurus risings, I'm going to be discussing the great April conjunction for you in connection to the transiting Black Moon Lilith in Virgo. So let's just first unpack, what does it mean to have Lilith in either Taurus and or the second house? Now, keep in mind, if you have Lilith in the second house, even if it's in another sign, you experience your Black Moon Lilith through the lens of Taurus. So you essentially have it in both of those energies. We always have to do that in astrology. No matter what house placement, you look at that sign that's on that house, but then you have to say, who is the landlord here? And you have to understand what it is to have that energy in that sign as well. I hope that's not confusing. Anyway, Lilith in Taurus and/or the second house, related to self-worth and values with Lilith here. She wants to have her own power without relying on anyone. She doesn't want to need anyone to have a strong foundation. She doesn't want to need anybody else's money. She doesn't want to need anybody else to feel good about herself. Cultivating magnetism beyond seduction and in a service of love itself may be your Lilith mission in this life, right? Now, problems could come up in your life when it comes to money. You're likely to blame others for your money problems, even though you don't want to look to anybody for money. But if money problems come up, it's very easy to blame other people, but it's unlikely to not be their fault. It's unlikely to be their fault directly. Your own self-defeating behavior is in some way contributing to any shortfall in your income, shortfall in your sense of self and your self-esteem and your ability to feel like you have a strong foundation. Now, the good news is that you could break this cycle once you acknowledge and you discover the ways in which you are self-sabotaging, especially your financial success and feeling really good about yourself. So it's possible that your self-esteem is somehow linked to your monetary challenges, how one sort of informs the other. And maybe you need to value your skills more and change what it is that you do for a living. Level up your skill set, change jobs. Maybe you're procrastinating on some sort of business deal, a business situation, or you're afraid of taking a financial risk. Perhaps you're too rash in making decisions. Are you overspending? Are you compensating for that lack of esteem and happiness? Whatever the scenario is, you could face truths and create more financial freedom for yourself and for your loved ones. Now, I do want to sort of mention at this point a little caveat. Chiron is in Aries right now. After Chiron leaves Aries in 2026, he's going to be going into Taurus for 7 years. So Chiron in Taurus is it's the wound of loss. It could be very make us feel very afraid of not having a strong foundation, very afraid of not having money. Now, if you have your Lilith in Taurus and/or the second house, that Chiron transit's really going to be activating that. So it would behoove you to get sort of really straight with your relationship with money and your relationship to where it is that you are in your life right now, as far as being able to have a strong foundation and starting to make some real boss moves right now as far as establishing a stronger foundation for yourself. You don't want to wait until the transit hits, right? Because that'll be, and yeah, so you have like another 2 years to sort of work on this, right? So that's just a little something I wanted to add in. I don't want to make it about that. But and especially if you have your Chiron in Taurus, that goes especially tenfold for you guys. Now, with that Taurus Black Moon energy and/or second house, Black Moon Lilith, at some point in your life, you may have likely felt very shamed for self-indulgence, for maybe not sharing the way other people thought you should be sharing, for holding on to possessions too tightly, for enjoying yourself without apology, just wanting to do what you wanted to do. And you could feel guilty or wrong for doing those things now, which can lead to all sorts of behaviors, whether it's about hoarding. Black Moon Lilith here could certainly manifests as hoarding or purging or anything in between those extremes. Now, it doesn't only have to be things, right? Because when we say hoarding, we typically think of people who hoard items, but we could hoard a belief system. This is the way I believe. This is the way I think it should be, and I'm not changing, right? We could hoard relationships. We can try to hold on to things so tight for fear that the rug's going to be pulled out from underneath our feet. We don't even realize that we're doing that, right? This could be a very controlling Black Moon placement, right? So because of that, right, always having that sort of fear under it, that sort of like, oh, I don't know if this is okay, you can have a hard time feeling truly satisfied or satiated. Um, in situations like having enough money or feeling good enough about yourself or feeling good enough in situations. But then you could also at the same time feel very ashamed for wanting to indulge yourself or feel guilty for indulging yourself. So that's a complex kind of situation there, right? So, maybe you were punished, for being like slow, for wanting things, for savoring things, for enjoying, for indulging, something like that at some point in your life. Even if you don't remember it, it doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? I mean, these are the situations that can absolutely end up manifesting as that, okay? So accepting yourself in that way and really working in a very open and honest way with those situations, really looking at your ability to feel independent. Do you have a hard time being independent? Are you overly independent because it's like a big, uh, I don't need you kind of energy. And so you're hyper focused on being independent, really looking at the idea of money and self esteem, your sense of self. Also looking at, because Black Moon Lilith in Taurus under the second house can also have you looking at your health because that second house does rule food. So a lot of times Black Moon Lilith can absolutely manifest in some sort of either health issue or trouble with losing weight, gaining weight, anything having to do with weight as well, right? So really looking at those things. So I hope that interpretation was helpful. Now, for those of you who are Taurus rising, this great conjunction in Taurus obviously is going to be happening in your first house of self in the middle of April, and it is going to be trining the transiting Lilith energy in Virgo in your fifth house. Now, this can be absolutely fabulous for you when it comes to relationship, creativity, your joy, your happiness, all these good things. But remember, where Lilith is in Virgo, as I said in the beginning of the video, we're dealing with feeling very controlled in that part of our life. So even if it's the ideas of fifth house connection, so something could be going on with one of your kids, one of your children. Maybe they're moving out or they're moving away or they're getting married or they're going through something. Could be that. Fifth house also has to do with falling in love, love affairs, romance. That conjunction energy has you very open to meeting somebody new, but with it is in an easy trying to Lilith, you want to make sure, are you allowing past experiences to inform these experiences where that is still controlling you so that you're not able to be as open as you'd like when it comes to being able to start new relationships, right? Again, it's this idea of feeling like needing to look at how is this idea of joy, happiness, children energy, relationship, being able to take a chance, the weight of that energy, how is it controlling you? Because this big conjunction is going to have you looking at that and saying, Taurus energy, you got this, you can do it. Don't overthink it, just go for it. Right? So that's what that conjunction is going to be meaning for those of you who are a Taurus rising. So I'm going to be doing a much longer video when as that transit gets closer. But for now, that is what I have for you guys. I hope this was helpful in some way. Bye-bye. Hello, Black Moon Lilith in Gemini or the third house. So if you have Black Moon Lilith in the third house, you experience it through the lens of Gemini, even if your third house placement is not Gemini. Okay. So that's something that right? That's just how astrology works. The house placement, the landlord, you experience that energy of whatever's going on in that house through the lens of that landlord. So we're first going to discuss that. And then for those of you who are Gemini risings, we're going to discuss how the great conjunction in the middle of April is going to be impacting your transiting Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Virgo. Okay. So first, let's talk about what does Lilith and Gemini mean? My, oh my, how many times has what you had to say or what you were saying, how many times has it landed you in trouble? right? Do you blame others? Is it their fault because they don't understand, or you think that they don't listen or they don't care? Actually, you might not realize, but very often your words can be pretty harsh. Your darker feelings can bubble to the surface, and your loved ones can receive the that sword tongue energy, right? It's always the deal with wherever Gemini. If Gemini's tired, or if there's any sort of negative sort of aspect to Gemini, Gemini is not going to be nice to you. They're just not going to be. They're not. So you can absolutely give, like, probably one of the best tongue lashings to people out of all the positions in the zodiac. Okay, you could definitely be harsh, and when if when somebody reacts, right, um you could just turn around and say, well, you deserve that. Because you're cruel. You're the mean one. You're the one. You may not realize that you initiated the argument. It's very hard for you to see that, right? And some of you may see it and just be like, I know I do that. That's totally me. Now, the truth does hurt. These things are never comfortable. But if you're not careful, you can indulge in all of the negative traits associated with this third house energy, like whining and nagging and arguing and berating and criticizing. It's definitely an aspect of Black Moon Lilith in Gemini and or the third. So fortunately, she's one of the easier energies to deal with in her chart. You have the ability to face the truth and really delve into the origins of those feelings that lead you to speaking out and acknowledging the impact that your words have on other people. Because once you do this, man, are you going to be wise beyond your years. It's crazy, like how wise you become. It's like, oh, I do say that, and I do that because of this. It brings forth this kind of wisdom. And then you could be such a not only a fountain of wisdom for other people in your life, but you could just be somebody who people just really want to sit down and talk to you. And you have the ability to be very open to, at that point, listening to other people's problems. Um, you would make a great counselor, you would make a great advocate, a great lawyer, great teacher, anything like that. Here, Lilith really wants to create a healthy dynamic with receiving and giving information. So it's really important to learn your own wisdom when it comes to the idea of communication. Tap into your own wisdom. Allow your own wisdom to get to the bottom of why you might react in certain ways, right? And the reason, because this is always a reason, we could always kind of bring it back to a reason why we were meant to manifest this energy. And at some sensitive point in your life, you felt shame for speaking too much or too little, or for your intelligence, or for your social skills, you know? Like one of my brothers has this placement, and he was just the happiest, most he was just such a beautiful energy when he was a kid. And my father was sure to crush that. And it was weird. It was almost like my father had a weird kind of jealousy towards him because everyone loved him. He lit up every room that he went in. From when he was a little kid, he was hilarious. He went everywhere. He was always walking on his toes. He always had a big smile on his face. He was very social. He was very funny. And my father would always put him down. So when I got older and I learned astrology, it was like, naturally, he has this black moon placement. It's difficult to see. It really is. Because you get squashed at a certain point, and then on a soul level you react to that, and then you build life on top of it. You know what I mean? You may even be a little suspicious of people who are like very indulgent in this way. So like, even people who are social butterflies, or they talk too much, or they seem to flaunt their intelligence, that can irritate you. Like, you don't trust them. You know what I mean? Your curiosity may have been stifled in some way or another. You can even fear, on some level, fear not being smart, and in situations where you really want people to think you're smart, you know. But again, you could be really like wicked, wicked, wicked when you're angry. So you have to be careful, because shame in this area can lead to extremes of really like bridge burning energy for sure, right? With Black Moon Lilith in the third and or Gemini. Right. You could say things that where it's just like you can't take it back kind of thing. So you do want to be careful of that kind of energy. And working on self-acceptance is the key to empowerment always with these energies. So I hope that was helpful, my friends. Now let's talk about if you are a Gemini rising. Let's fast forward it a little bit to the middle of April. We have this great conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is in your 12th house. It is going to be trining this Virgo energy in the 4th house. I'm going to tell you something, guys, and I mentioned this last week. For you guys, this big conjunction here, this revolutionary energy in the 12th house of behind the scenes, of ending things, of planning as well. This is like a planning energy. This could be so good for your creativity, I have to tell you. It is going to be trining the 4th house energy. Now the thing is, trines are beautiful. They're very easy peasy. Beautiful. We don't have to do anything with these transits, right? We just kind of are. But with Black Moon Lilith in Virgo there, we could be feeling very kind of held back in our home environment or our emotional stability. We could be feeling very held back in that energy. And this conjunction, trining this energy, is going to have us really wanting to break free and not feel so confined, right, on certain levels. Now, this could also be for those of you who work from home, or if you're doing any sort of creative energy from home, this conjunction can be crazy creative for you. Really, really good. This could even bring a lot of negotiating and discussing some sort of opportunities with other people. That's great, right? Except keep in mind now, Lilith is about control, and she is about not realizing where we can lash out and then shoot ourselves in the foot. So we got to be a little careful there. Okay. So when that big conjunction happens in April, you want to make sure that you're not shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to some sort of creative project or wanting to create some sort of change in your home environment. It's all about balancing it out. Okay. Because that's where you're feeling controlled about some sort of like either your ability to feel emotionally secure, some sort of home situation, and you don't want to act too Uranian because it's very easy to be like, I'm out of here, Doesn't mean you're not going to break out for change, but you want to make sure that you temper how it is that you are communicating with people, solutions that you're coming up with. Okay. We want to temper it in that Lilith transiting in Virgo energy. Okay, my friends. All right. Hopefully that was helpful in some way. Thanks for hanging with me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. So Black Moon Lilith in Cancer and or the 4th house energy. So if you have a Black Moon Lilith in the 4th house, but in another sign, you still have to understand this energy, because that means that you experience your Lilith energy through the lens of Cancer. Because Cancer is the landlord of the 4th house. That's how it works in astrology. Okay. So the way I'm going to roll this section out is I'm going to explain what it means to have Lilith in Cancer / 4th house energy. And then for those of you who are Cancer risings, I am going to once again going to discuss this great conjunction in April and talk about how the transiting Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Virgo is going to be impacting you. Okay, so let's get into the Lilith in Cancer. Emotions or home life may be where Lilith in this energy reveals her raw side. Man, I mean, I have mine here. I shared this at the beginning of, I have it in Aries in the 4th house. And so there could be a lot of raw energy when it comes to dealing with your home life, your first family, your early childhood environment, your emotional stability. There could be a raw energy about it, almost like you feel like you have to fight for it, right? It's that kind of energy, right? The relationship to your family also can be a catalyst for expressing and harnessing this power, because it is a kind of power. Now, whether you realize it or not, you do have a dark side to your nature, and you can cause some upset for your family, within your family. Right? And as I said in the beginning of the video, you're likely just reacting to something, but that doesn't mean that it's they're who they are. but if you're fighting against that, then you are who you are, kind of thing, right? That's how it works. Says you could easily believe that your family is the problem or that you have the right to express yourself, right? Absolutely. But the truth is in that some way you're running away from either responsibilities at home. You may be running away from needing to feel like you have to fit the mold of that family situation. You may be running away from being made to feel like you have to be something in that environment that just doesn't feel comfortable to you. Okay. And you want to run away from it. You want to fight against that. You may expect family members to even rescue you or understand you at a certain point, and soothing or solving your emotional problems, where they come in and they sort of help make you feel better. You may expect that, but deep down though, you know that some aspect of your behavior is upsetting them, and that needs to change. Um, and a lot of times with this particular placement, it really comes down to, are you able to accept that you're very different than your family? And that because of that, the energy rolls out a certain way in life. And the thing is, even if they give you what you feel like you need, it's still not going to fill that hole. So, again, I have this placement and I've had very challenging energies with my siblings over the years. I love them. I have very nice relationship with them. Well, all but one now, but no one speaks to her at all. She's got her own stuff going on. But, my other siblings and I, we all talk and we've kind of like worked through all of this stuff. That's the beauty of Black Moon Lilith. You shine some light on it, you own what you own, you talk through it, and then she's not a thing. You can't get rid of her. She's still there, but at least you know why. Comes a lot of understanding with really understanding your Lilith energy. And the thing is, even if your problem is something beyond your control, you know that you need to stop lashing out at a family member, ever expecting them to come to your rescue, right? I mean, again, even if things are just like beyond your control, right? And you're just reacting to the situation and, you're reacting, expecting them to come around and, and listen. They may be you may even get that they're even scared of you. Look, I mean, the gift of Lilith is the opportunity to bring unconscious and self-defeating behavior to the light, so they can no longer be a problem for you. Because the reality is, at some point in your life, you felt ashamed for being needy, for being dependent, whatever the reason or the result of that experience was, you now feel awkward or even angry with people who display those traits without apology. And again, it's all about context, right? And, I can tell you, I know I have my Lilith in the fourth house because when I was a child, I had a very serious blood disease. And at 8 months old, I had to go and live in the hospital for a few years. So I was very abandoned. So, it's like that kind of issue. My parents had to put me in the hospital, otherwise I wouldn't have lived. So it doesn't matter on a soul level, though. My soul doesn't understand the extenuating circumstances the same way as if you had a sick parent or if your family struggled financially and you didn't get what you needed, whatever the case was. Somebody had an addiction issue in your family. Your parents got divorced. That's not your problem. That's not because of you. But if you reacted to those things and then were made to feel bad about it, that's where it becomes like, okay, now I know I have to fight against this kind of energy. And you can feel very awkward with people who display very sort of like needy, dependent behavior. Now, your nurturing nature was stifled in some way, and you can feel very uncomfortable asking for help. You are not comfortable asking for help or expressing your own nurturing nature as a result is something that you feel like you can kind of do. But then when it starts to get too close, it could feel a little uncomfortable. And that discomfort can lead to extremes where you can have some sort of misgivings afterwards where you're realizing like, wow, I may have a really hard time getting close to people. I have a really hard time asking for help to my own detriment. That was a big one that I know I had to really work on that for a long time. This idea of asking for help, allowing myself to feel vulnerable. Ooh, that didn't, because when I wanted to do that and I needed it, I didn't get it. I didn't get what I needed, right? And so all of those memories come up on a soul level. It's very interesting. So I hope this was helpful for those of you who have your Black Moon Lilith in Cancer and or the fourth house. Now I want to speak to those of you who are Cancer risings in particular. I want to discuss this, the conjunction that's going to be happening in April between Jupiter and Uranus, because it is going to be trining the transiting Black Moon Lilith in Virgo. So the actual conjunction is going to be happening in your 11th house of goals, gains, friends, associates, older siblings, daughter-in-law, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, stepchildren, grandchildren. 11th house is also, it's a very much money house. It has to do with goals and gains and having money for the future, right? It's more about like having retirement money, or am I going to be okay, and where do I see myself going over the next 10 to 15 years? How do I think A, B, and C is going to roll out now, and how is it going to impact me? So that's where the big conjunction is going to be happening. It's going to be all about busting out of an energy. What's interesting is it's happening for you in your 11th house, and that's Uranus is the most exalted in the 11th house because that's where Uranus lives. So I do feel this is going to be a very good thing for you guys. Now, Black Moon Lilith is going to be transiting in Virgo in the house of Gemini, though, in the third house. So when you have to understand that even transiting Lilith in Gemini can be a very sharp-tongued energy, right? So there can be this idea, it could be very easy to be manipulative and very mean with your words because you're feeling very closed in, and it can be very hard for you to see this. When it comes to manifesting some sort of big change, when it comes to the next 10 to 15 years of your life, your goals and gains, and where it is that you see yourself going, right? So you just want to be a little careful. There are a lot of other good things I'm going to be saying about this transit, but I just want you to practice shining some light on, right? Because Lilith is going to be transiting in Virgo in that energy until the end of June. So you really want to look at, when it comes to communicating, when it comes to being able to learn things or look at something new in a very different way, it can be a little difficult here because Lilith is this blind spot where we can feel we don't want to feel in control of anything. We don't want to feel like we have to think a certain way, that we have to carry out responsibilities in a certain way. It can be a little bit of a tricky energy. So we just want to make sure that we're not self-sabotaging ourselves there, right? In April, again, I'm going to do a much more in-depth reading when it comes to that transit, but something to just watch out for now. Okay, guys? All right. I hope that was helpful in some way. Thanks for hanging with me, and I will see you guys next time. Hello, Black Moon Lilith in Leo or the fifth house. Okay, so if you have, oh, this is good. I got my nose is itchy. Someone's getting money. Lilith in Leo and or the fifth house. So let's say you have Leo in the fifth house, but there's a different sign there. You still have to understand Lilith and Leo because you experience your Lilith energy through the lens of Leo. Okay, that's the way it works in astrology, not to get confusing. So we're going to unpack that, and then I'm going to speak to those of you who are Leo rising when it comes to this great conjunction in April and how it's going to be speaking to the transiting Lilith in Virgo energy. Okay, so first let's unpack Lilith in Leo. So, and or the fifth house. So whether you realize it or not, there is this dark side to your nature that you would rather play and have a good time than take responsibility. You really like responsibility is just not your jam. And you could be a little bit of a troublemaker. You could be a little bit of you could kick up the drama a little bit, right? When it comes to, especially if somebody's trying to put too much responsibility on you and you're just, I really don't want to deal with this. Your own creative pursuits are very paramount to fulfill this very deep need within you. So you would rather just be creative and leave the responsibility to somebody else, with so much so that you feel that others, particularly um, anything that would garner the need to be responsible in that part of your life. So this could be, you could feel like children stand in your way, having your own business could stand in your way. To a certain degree, um, a business can stand in your way. Um, Needing to manifest some sort of like monetizable talent can be all consuming. It could be like absolute focus, right, on this area. It's all about balance, right? It's got to be about balance, you know? So you can blame others, you can blame, again, your own children, a business, whatever, from for preventing you from following your own passionate interests. Where it's like you have this passion in you that you want to follow, and it's like, well, I can't do that because I have kids. I can't do that because I have a business. Or I can't do that because I have this particular relationship, or I can't do that because I'm not done with this creative endeavor. Meanwhile, that creative endeavor could be making you feel very stuck, where it almost is like it makes you feel sort of like chained, right? And this is how it could manifest. But regardless, it is you who needs to find the balance between fun and responsibility, and the gift here of Black Moon Lilith is the opportunity to bring, in any placement, the gift is always to bring that unconscious and that self-defeating behavior up to the top so that we can shine some light on her and then make fun of ourselves and say, yep, I do that. You got me. Just that. I don't really like responsibility. Give it to me in piecemeal. Or just calling yourself out and just being like, I need to balance this out, because Black Moon Lilith in her most honest form really doesn't serve anybody, right? Just really doesn't. So what else did I want to, once you find balance here, you could be like an amazing, amazing parent, teacher, artist, business owner. I mean, and it's just like such a fortuitous energy, right? Because it's ruled by the sun. So you really don't want to block that energy for you. Now, with this placement, Lilith can manifest through more private, like sexual and creative acts of self-expression. Um, you can take pride in the many ways that artistic potential kind of moves through you, which is great. Um, this is really common, and I don't judge at all people. I don't feel like I have the right to, so I don't. But I have a lot of clients who are sex workers and they have this placement, you know, this and Lilith and Scorpio, very common. Um, that doesn't mean that all of you with this placement have that. Okay, let's not be silly. But at some critical point in your life, you felt ashamed or otherwise wrong for calling special attention to yourself, for seeking the spotlight, for wanting to be the center of attention, for wanting to win things, for wanting to be better than other people. And you could feel really uncomfortable around people who are expressing those particular kinds of traits. And that shame or feeling of discomfort can lead to extremes that can exacerbate the problem. So you really sort of have to find peace with your need for, and you just have to say, yeah, I like attention. I like applause. I like, maybe I want to be that successful artist, entertainer. Maybe I do want to be that in its most pure and positive form. I want that. And really just kind of calling that out and saying, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. That's part of the human condition. But because you could be made to feel like shamed or wronged about it, it's something that you sort of kind of go back to in your life and you try to figure out and rectify. Okay. So I hope that was helpful in some way for those of you who have Black Moon, Lilith, and Leo and/or your fifth house. Now I want to speak to those of you specifically who are Leo rising. When it comes to this conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus in the middle of April, it is going to be trining the transiting Black Moon Lilith in Virgo. So the great conjunction is going to be happening in your fantastic 10th house. I am so excited to hear what is going to be going on for you people because, listen, it's 10th house. It's a great conjunction. You're either getting a new career, getting married, getting divorced, making some sort of big life change. Maybe you're deciding to move to another state, move to another, whatever it is. It's in Leo, so it's really working with either your money or, because it's a Venus ruled transit, a relationship, but it's definitely speaking to your ability to feel very secure. Now, it's going to be trining Lilith and Virgo, which is in your second house of the money that you make from the work that you do. Now, it happens to be in the sign of Taurus. Okay, so expect that this particular conjunction is really going to be speaking to your money as well as your ability to feel secure. Now, what you don't want to be is not fair, because that's the only little caveat, okay, with this. Because Black Moon Lilith, again, she's a blind spot. In Virgo, in the 6th house, a very fixed energy, right? In that space could be very stubborn, but we won't see it. It's very hard for us to see it in ourselves. So and because it's in a trine, it's very easy to not see it, right? So we want to be very careful that we're not going to like not take something because we're like, oh, that's not enough money. I'm worth more than that, right? Or yeah, like shooting something down because you're like, I'm worth more than that. Or if you're trying to negotiate something with a significant other pertaining to finances, really make sure that you sort of playing it fair, playing it straight and playing it fair. You really want to make sure you're playing it straight and fair. I can't say it any other way. So I'm saying this now because I am not a big fan of waiting until a transit happens and then figuring it out. I am a bigger fan of know it's coming. You got a little bit of time here and start paying attention to that. Are you feeling a little controlled by the idea of finances? When you think about feeling stable in life, does that make you feel anxious? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? How is this going to end up connecting to your career, your public reputation, your standing in the world, and getting pretty clear on that before this transit hits? Okay, guys? So I hope that was helpful in some way. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. And at least our Virgo friends, Black Moon Lilith in Virgo and or the 6th house. So if you have your Black Moon Lilith in the 6th house in another sign, you still have to understand that your Black Moon Lilith gets experienced through the lens of Virgo. Okay? So this is going to be an interesting one for you guys if you have Lilith in Virgo, because you are having a Lilith return right now. It started in on October 3rd of 23, and it will be going until June 29th of 2024. Okay, so what does it mean? Oh, by the way, I'm going to first be discussing what it means to have Lilith in Virgo and or the 6th house, and then I'm going to be speaking directly to Virgo risings when it comes to the great conjunction that's going to be coming in April when it comes to this Lilith transiting Lilith in Virgo energy. Okay, so first let's unpack. So here with the Black Moon here, this indicates that you can have an uncomfortable experience when it comes to work at times. Um, Things could be a little fraught as well when it comes to maybe even your health, mental, physical, emotional, your daily responsibilities. You may have trouble organizing your schedule, organizing yourself, and you could blame other people for it. um where you feel like you're just given too many things, too many responsibilities, too many duties. You can feel like your coworkers are always interrupting you or not showing up in the way that they should, or um you know your days aren't long enough. You could definitely find fault with the work environment, having to do with your colleagues, people who work for you, the environment itself. There could be some challenges in being able to see very clearly where you might get in your own way when it comes to your health, mental, physical, emotional, right? So it'd certainly be a situation. Um, you can have, and I hate to say this, it sounds negative, but you can have an endless list of complaints, particularly about like your work environment and responsibility. And the thing is, the problem does lie within you rather than in others, because you need to organize your own responsibilities. You need to organize your own workload. You need to organize how it is that you take care of yourself, ensuring that you assert your own rights within that situation. You understand, like getting very clear on who's responsible for what, where do I stand in this, asserting your rights without being too aggressive in the situation, okay? Um, you have the right to say no if you're given too much work or if somebody is asking something of you that you feel like challenges your moral code or your moral compass. You have the right to tell colleagues that you're busy, you can't talk, you can't do their work for them, whatever the case is. You do not need to be a martyr, nor do you need to overload yourself in an attempt to feel good about yourself. Because a lot of times, Black Moon Lilith and Virgo, it's like feeling like you're always needing to prove yourself. It's like, here we go again. I feel like I have to improve myself again. I have to improve myself, and that's uncomfortable. So you need to value your contribution really to a situation and take really good care of your health and your well-being each day, right? Especially with this energy in Virgo. I always say that with Black Moon Lilith and Chiron in Virgo, take good care of your health. You really need to be careful of that. Others are not responsible. Others are not responsible for your daily experience, what it is that you're willing to do versus what you're not willing to do. Others are not responsible for your health, it's just the way it goes. And once you've mastered those skills, right? Absolutely. This is a strong placement. Absolutely. As then you're a real power to contend with, particularly at work. Because then there's nothing that you can't do. But you have to temper it. So you don't want to because Virgo's a very critical energy. So if you're too critical of everybody, you don't want to get labeled as a problem child, right? So you have to temper it. You kind of have to sit back and say, okay, I have to just be a little careful with how I express, how I see things, how I view things, and just finding some diplomatic ways of handling it, right? A very, very balanced way, if that makes sense. Some of you may even choose a job associated with, workers' rights and being an advocate for people, or being an advocate, or working in a situation where you are an advocate for other people. Now, we always have this placement for a reason. So chances are at some point in your life, you may have felt like wronged or ashamed of or off or whatever for paying very special attention to the practical side of life, attention to details and organization and routines, right? You may even go to great pains to prove that you are not ordinary, that you are not worried, that you're not eager to please or concerned about details enough to perfect a project or to perfect a craft. Now, that's a very tricky energy. You could go through a lot to prove I'm not ordinary. I'm different. I'm not worried. I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm not going to be here to please anybody else. What can happen here, though, is people can get the wrong impression, first of all. And one shadow aspect is you can end up leaving many projects unfinished, right? And that is a sheer sign of perfectionism, right? Perfectionist expectations equals unfinished projects, or cutting something off at the feet, quitting a job as soon as maybe it gets to a point where you're going to really need to navigate diplomacy. It's just leaving it. That's Black Moon Lilith, right? Because then that way you don't have to deal with it, and you don't have to deal with the prospect of not dealing with the perfect situation, or you don't have to deal with them, right? Them out there, thinking that you're not perfect, you know? So extremes of behaviors of binging and purging can create obviously imbalance. So this is all about working on self-acceptance, just like Lilith in any other position. It's all about shining a little light on it, saying, yep, I might do that. Let me try to call myself out when I do that. And I'm such a big fan of making fun of ourselves. If not us, then who? You know what I mean? Um, so now I want to speak to those of you Virgo risings who are going to be dealing with this great conjunction in April when it comes to this Virgo energy being in your first house. So um, Lilith's going to be in your first house. Now the conjunction is going to be in Taurus, which is in your ninth house. So I would not be surprised with that energy. The whole way you believe, what you believe to be your truth is going to sort of just shift. Now, for some of you, it can happen a little more tangibly, right? This could be a big change in that ninth house. The big change could be if you work in the following professions, if you work in higher education, within the law, legalities, local governance. If you work in anything having to do with religion, organized or otherwise, if it has to do with advertising, marketing, publishing, importing or exporting, yeah, anything like that, right? If it has to do with work, because it's going to be trining this conjunction. Trines are very easy. They're very supportive. But because it's Black Moon Lilith and she's very connected to control, and this energy is going to be in your first house, which represents your path. If you're feeling very restricted on your path, you want to be careful of not sort of lashing out when it comes to maybe a job opportunity in that area. When it comes to needing to sort of problem solve when it comes to definitely don't be talking about politics with anybody. That's just not a good energy at all, right? When the great conjunction hits, it's just not. I just would just keep that conversation out of, and religion, because you could easily feel very justified, very right. You could kind of suck down a rabbit hole in that space that's just, quite frankly, not worth it. Okay, just not worth it. Now that Jupiter and Uranus conjunction in the ninth house. Remember, that's a Jupiter ruled energy. So Jupiter is very exalted during this conjunction for you. And it's all about expansion and being a lot more than what you are right now. And with that Virgo, Black Moon Lilith, you're going to be very aware of your path feeling so restricted right now. So it truly is going to be like, get me out of here kind of energy, which is fine. But you just want to make sure that you're taking a very tempered approach to it. Okay. So start paying attention now. A lot of you may be feeling this, what I'm talking about now, right? This with Lilith in that Virgo energy right now in your first house, you could be feeling like your path is very restricted and you don't like it, right? But keep in mind that this conjunctions that's going to be coming up in April is going to be rattling something to go in a different direction, which is great. But you just want to make sure that you're handling everything in a very fair and open and balanced way. Okay, my friends. So I hope that was helpful in some way. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Take care now.